Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 41st episode of Tuesdays with Toby. My name is Toby Frierson, and I'm excited to be back before you again today with another message. If you all did not see last week's message, I'm really going to encourage you to hop back 1 week and do so. I kind of sort of went to the Tennessee mountains, and I went on a exploration to see some bears. And boy, oh boy, did this trip not disappoint. I saw lions, tigers, and okay, let me stop. I just saw bears and some other wildlife. I didn't see all the other things, but my cousin Yvette drove all the way from Texas. I drove from Georgia. We met up in the Smoky Mountains in an amazing little cabin that was so well suited for everything we needed during that time. We've been cooped up from COVID ever since March of that year, and it was just time to get away and explore and have some fun and also have some solitude and rest to be able to get away from distractions a little bit. So if this sounds intriguing to you, I do recommend a few of the hikes and trails that we did. I show you some pictures and some short video clips. So please hop back 1 week. The episode is titled Mountain Adventure, and I want you all to check out my bears. I really had a good time trying to find the bears. Today we're going to shift gears a bit, and I want to talk about hurt. Hurt and disappointment and pain is something that none of us are exempt from. We all actually experience this. However, we experience it in different ways. So in today's episode, I want you all to lean in a little close a bit. I really want you to listen and hear me out because I want to share with you a few of my thoughts on hurt, how personally I process hurt, and I want to give us some nuggets maybe and some ideas on how we can manage hurt, since really that's what we're required to do because we can't get rid of it. But before we get into that, and before we get started with today's message, I need you to look behind me. And as we do each week, let's say our family rules together. During Tuesdays with Toby, we will use kind words. Do your best. Always be honest. Forgive and forget. Be happy. Count your blessings. Laugh at yourself. Stay positive and love one another. Think about the word hurt. Two broad categories come to mind: physical pain and emotional pain. In my experience, and perhaps in your experience too, physical pain is a lot easier to get over, if you will, than emotional pain. I'll give you some examples. When we have physical pain, and perhaps as a result of an injury, so go with me here, the doctor will say, okay, your arm needs to be in a cast and in a sling for this amount of time, or your neck needs to be in a brace, not moving for this amount of time, or I need you to use these crutches. You're not going to be weight bearing until this amount of time. So when we're dealing with physical ailments, perhaps there's usually a prescription for that, a time frame, and then surely enough, after that stated time frame, our physical ailment is gone. And yes, after we get off crutches, there may be a little bit of a limp. So there might be some residuals as far as someone can tell that, oh, wow, something must have happened to them. They may be in pain, but in essence, we're actually recovering. We have that limp, but we're recovering. So go with me here. So physical pain, in my opinion, is a lot easier to handle than emotional pain, but all of us have dealt with physical hurts, and some of us may be physically hurting right now, and hopefully there's a prescription or a subscription that's telling you how long you're going to be in that state. So that is how I would kind of describe our physical hurts today. But then there are our emotional hurts. And when I tell you all, it is so hard to get away from your past or to stop being triggered by things that just bring up unpleasant memories. It's really that hard. And what's so unfortunate about our emotional hurt is that no matter how much we try to mask it, no matter how much we try to act like, oh, I'm over that, I'm healed from that, that person doesn't affect me anymore, or I can even be in a room with them and it doesn't matter, those things typically aren't true. Like, these emotional things that we deal with just are not that easy to get over. However, what I'm suggesting today is all of us are dealing with that. And so if all of us are dealing with that, and if those hurts are still present, how in the world are we supposed to manage them? Like, what are we supposed to do? So I wanted to identify some hurts for you today, just to kind of think and see whether you might fall into any of these categories. So here are some things where might be an indicator, wait, I might be hurting today. First one, you have a lack of awareness or you avoid issues. Now, those two things are different. Avoidance is on purpose. You completely know what's going on and you're just choosing not to acknowledge it. And some of us just are not aware. So that's the first thing. If you're finding yourself in a state of lack of awareness, or if you're avoiding things, you could potentially be hurting for sure. How about the fact that someone may be bullying you? They may be bullying you, emotionally, or they may be bullying you physically. However, that's causing hurt. That is absolutely causing hurt. That's not a good thing. No sense of belonging. You have joined this group, you've joined that group, you even go around family and you never really seem to like, where's my tribe? Like, I cannot find my people. That causes us hurt, y'all. That causes us a lot of emotional hurt and angst. And we start looking at ourselves, asking questions like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, nobody ever wants to be around me. Or whenever I find a group, it just doesn't last. It doesn't stick. So that whole no sense of belonging, that causes hurt. How about a lack of purpose? Some of us have been working jobs for 10, 15, 20 years, and we've literally been doing that. We've been working jobs. There's not a sense of satisfaction when we go to that workspace. We don't necessarily share the things that go on there with others. That's a clear sense that you're not super into it. But yeah, we just kind of, no sense of purpose. We do a thing, but that thing's not scratching any itches that we might have. You might be hurt in that instance. Self-dislike and low self-esteem. Man, these are so major, and so many of us have pockets of this and areas of this. It might not be like, I don't like my whole self, but for years, somebody may look in a mirror and say, oh my gosh, I hate my nose, or I wish my hair was a different texture, or I want a different, my eyes are too far apart, or I have big ears. Like those types of things. You've all heard either yourself say them or you've heard others say them, but that could be a form of low self-esteem or even self-dislike, and that can hurt us. How about this one? Nothing makes you happy. I actually had someone tell me this maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I was super stunned to hear the statement because one, I'd really never processed that before. I'm bent a certain way where you can like blow on me like this and I'm gonna like keel over just like with excitement. Like that's just my personality. And so to hear somebody express, and they were expressing it in the form of looking at me and looking at kind of how I approach things and how I move. And they're like, wow, you get so excited about the smallest little thing. Wow, I don't even know what that is because nothing makes me happy. Like that was literally a statement out of somebody's mouth. And I had to stop and pause and say, whoa, I bet if nothing makes this person happy, then they're probably hurting inside. There's probably a lot of layers there. And that proved to be true. And then so if you're finding yourself today saying, yeah, Toby, like nothing really makes me happy either. Like that motor just doesn't get going. You might be hurting. And then lastly, you have unidentified skills or talents. You're in these last two I saved on purpose. This is the whole, what are you good at? What makes you happy? So the unidentified skills and talents, those are probably the things that you were put on this earth to do, the things that are gonna rev your engine and your motor every single day, but you haven't tapped into them yet because they're unidentified. That could definitely cause you some hurt. And so these are just some of the lists I just named here. I want you all to just kind of ponder this a little bit as we think about, gosh, like, am I in this category? Am I really hurting like this? As we come to grips with the fact that we are indeed all hurting, should we just accept that as a part of life? Remember, no one is exempt, right? Or since it's a part of life, are there ways we should be managing our hurt? I would like to suggest that some parts of being hurt are unavoidable. That bullying part I talked about. If you're being physically abused or verbally abused, that's unavoidable because someone's projecting that on you. But I talked to you about that whole list of things that maybe you have some control over that. Maybe you can be working on those things. Maybe I can be working on those things because we can be intentional about facing the facts and not avoiding serious issues. We can be intentional about managing our self-talk and trying to get all that negativity that we project on ourselves, that we literally say about ourselves out of our mouths, but also out of our hearts. We can be intentional about working with a coach or a mentor to try to identify those unidentified skills, those unidentified talents, so we can walk in purpose one day because you know what you're good at. And then lastly, we can be intentional about figuring out how to find things that make us happy. There is something, friend, that puts a smile on your face. There is something that makes your heart kind of pump really fast. For me, it's chasing bears. It's going and finding bears. Okay, I'm going real far with that mountain adventure. I'm just eager to get back out there. But you get my point. There is something that is going to make you happy, and you may not be tapping into that. I did a whole episode, maybe 2 episodes about this right when the beginning of Tuesdays with Toby started. So maybe, I don't know, the first 10 episodes or so. It was called Be Happy. And I was trying to tell you all to create a list of things that you do or that you would like to do that you feel like would make you happy, and then do the things on the list. That circles right back to us today as we talk about hurt. So this is so vitally important. Managing our hurt is literally a matter of healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships. And I know you all want to have healthy relationships. You want to have a solid parent-child relationship. You want to have solid sibling relationships. You don't want to be at odds with your siblings. You certainly want to have solid relationships within your marriage or dating relationships. And then we all want to have great friendships. But can we say that today? And if we can't say that today, it is because we are hurting. It is because we have unmanaged hurt and undealt with hurt. I really appreciate you all taking the time to lean in, just as I asked us to do, to really put on those listening ears to figure out where you might be within the list that I shared today. And then I want you to really do some work and figure out what your next steps might be as you try to deal with your own hurt. I know for me, one of my next steps is I got to become more aware with what's around me. I can absolutely operate in a sense of unawareness, and it's not good, it's not helpful. And then as I become more aware, I have to be willing to speak up on things. So that's mine for today. That's my next step. What's your next step, friend? I hope you all like, share, and subscribe. And I really appreciate you checking out this message today. Let's manage this hurt. Let's deal with this hurt because we are all hurting. Take care.